Master Your Mindset Radio, Episode 60.
Welcome to Master Your Mindset Radio, the show where we empower you to conquer limiting beliefs and transform your world with your gifting and purpose. Now for your host, Elizabeth Nader.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode. Grab your coffee, grab your tea, whatever. Let's chat for a little bit. Some of you attended the Mindset Reset live this Saturday, and I hope you really enjoyed it. For the rest of you who couldn't get on during the live broadcast, all those videos are up now. All those videos are there for you for 6 months to enjoy and to really take advantage of all of that learning. So I want to go into a subject that I teased in my private Facebook group yesterday, which is the simple but profound idea that your mind is different and distinct from your brain. And the reason why it's so important to understand that. Now, that may seem obvious to you, or you may have never thought about it that way, but your mind is completely different than your brain. Now, we have a tendency to use those terms interchangeably, but if we really stop and think about it, we shouldn't use them interchangeably because they're very, very different from each other. The brain is literally the organ, the gray matter, the thing that is in your skull physically, right? And it controls all the electrical impulses in your body. It controls all your nervous system, all the automatic things that happen. It controls the output of hormones and other chemicals in your body, but your brain is the actual physical matter. And then we have your mind. Now, your mind is where you spend all of your time, right? You don't think about your brain, you think about your mind. Your mind is your thought life, your creativity, the area and place in which you develop emotions and feelings. Your mind is that virtual space that you spend your entire day in. That is your mind. But your mind has a direct impact on your brain. Direct impact on what your brain does. You know, I talk about neuroplasticity a lot because I think it's such a fascinating concept of how powerful the brain is, how it can recover from injury, right? Things that we've learned that the brain can do, that it can learn new things at any time, that we only use a fraction of the capacity of the power of the brain, but neuroplasticity itself is that capacity of your brain to create those new neural connections, grow new neurons, and this is all like in response to new thoughts, new experiences, and your structure of your brain can actually change based off all of that. So what is causing that, or what is influencing that neuroplasticity? Where is that power coming from? It's coming from your mind, from the virtual mind. So a simple definition, when you hear the word neuroplasticity, the simple definition of it is that it is the mind's ability to change the brain. The mind's ability to change the brain. And I want you to not only remember that, but really understand that you have the ability to change your brain. And you should take advantage of your ability to change your brain. Because if you don't, you're living less than in this world. If you don't, you will be stuck with habits and limiting thoughts and issues in your life forever. But if you take advantage of your mind's ability to change the brain and teach your brain new things, you'll be shocked at what you can do. And this is where we see the human experience just absolutely explode. This is where we see people push the limits and have incredible experience and accomplishment in life because they decide to take harness of their mind and use it to change their brain. So understanding that simple concept of the mind separate from the brain, but not only understanding it, but actually leveraging it and being mindful of it all the time will help you begin to control what's going on in your mind so you can have an actual influence on your brain. And then when you're able to influence your brain, which controls everything in your body, then guess what? You have now an opportunity to impact what you're seeing physically, what you're seeing in your body. So that's where we have to really understand that our negative mindsets, what's happening negatively in our mind has a negative influence on our brain from a structural and chemical standpoint, which then has a negative influence on our body. Negative thoughts have a corresponding electrochemical reaction in your brain. So negative thoughts that originate in your mind, in the virtual mind that we have where we spend all of our time, actually create electrochemical reactions in your brain, negative ones. And those chemicals then course through your body in this whole feedback loop. So if this is happening and you're having negative thoughts and then therefore negative chemicals, if you will, released from your brain, you're going to have a negative influence on your body. Eventually, you're going to pay a price physically. This is why the mind-brain-body connection is so important to understand, like a triangle. You're not going to be able to be healthy in your physical body always if you are constantly entertaining negative thoughts, if you're constantly feeding your brain negativity, which your brain then sees and creates negative chemical reactions. I mean, I'm simplifying what is a tremendously incredible thing that happens automatically in our brain, powerful. But we have to understand that these negative thoughts, just like a positive thought, has an influence on our brain. So let's look at the positive side of it. A positive thought will have then the ability to make our brain release and produce positive chemicals, which then get dumped into the body and create a positive result for us physically. So imagine it's the triangle, right? Mind, brain, body connection. Very, very important. So I want you to think about a concept that I love that Dr. Daniel Amen wrote about. And it just occurred to him one day after a lot of psychotherapy and patients who were so stuck in their ways and negative thoughts. And the story goes that he had a tough day and he came home and he found ants in his kitchen. And he was starting to clean them up. And as he was cleaning them up and thinking about his difficult day with all these difficult patients who were having a hard time getting past negativity in their life, it just popped into his head that just like his kitchen that was infested with ants, that his patients' brains were actually also infested with ants. He came up with this acronym for automatic negative thoughts, and that these were robbing them of potential in their life, of joy, of happiness. So he started to focus on that simple concept that these ants had taken over, right? These ants were created, these automatic negative thoughts, and they were literally running down ridges in the brain and creating all this chemical response. And the longer you entertain them, the harder it is to get rid of them, right? So he used that concept to begin to address his patients' difficulties differently. He taught them that every time you have a thought, your brain releases chemicals. So which chemicals do we want released, right? Every time you feel sad, hopeless, upset, judgmental, jealous, unkind, or even when you feel helpless, your brain immediately releases chemicals that make your body feel awful. Now, everyone can relate to that. You know very well when you think something negative or you get bad news and you react with fear, or you get that sense of dread, you get a pit in your stomach, right? Some people actually get nauseous, or your heart rate goes up, or you feel clammy or sweaty. There is a physical response to that thought because you have literally just released from your mind's thought to your brain's chemicals. You've released these chemicals into your body, which then create a physical response to that thought. It's just like the fear response, right? The flight or fight response. We know that when you're in that extreme stress, that your body dumps cortisol into your system and that your adrenaline spikes. And so that we actually are in a state of fight or flight, which is a way to protect ourselves. It is a physical response to fear that we are having in our mind that's affecting our brain and therefore doing that to our body. So again, it's the mind, brain, body connection, and it happens automatically, and we know it, we experience it, right? but we don't slow it down enough to recognize that we have the ability to impact it, that we have actual activity going on in the lobes of our brain that change when we have a positive thought versus a negative thought. And therefore, that activity in the lobes of our brain produces different chemicals, which produces a different physical response. So you're getting this. I hope you're getting this, but you have to think about this in a way that allows you to say, what am I going to do about those ants, like Dr. Ahmed talks about? What am I going to do about those ants? Because we know those automatic negative thoughts result then eventually in a physical response in our body because of that. And of course, the opposite is true, as I've said. When you have happy, loving thoughts, kind, positive thoughts, then the brain in reaction to the mind is now going to release completely different set of chemicals. And in fact, you can feel this in your body. You feel peace, you feel calm, your hands warm up, right? You're not clammy, you're not sweating usually. Your breathing pattern changes, your heart changes. If they were measuring your blood pressure, that would be different when you're experiencing a positive thought versus a negative thought. So we have to work on the ants. And we not only that, we have to be conscious always of the mind-brain-body connection and the neuroplasticity of the brain, which is God's gift to us to say, listen, he knew, right? He knew that our thoughts would affect our brain chemically. And that if we didn't understand that, we would be trapped in this whole process. But if we get it, we can leverage the neuroplasticity of the brain by changing what happens in our mind, by changing it there, by refusing to allow that just to be anything and everything come in and out and affect our brain and therefore affect our body. So I want you to think about these ants, these automatic negative thoughts. I want you to think about them infesting your mind, your brain, right? Your brain, as a result of the thoughts in your mind. And I want you to consider how you might eradicate them and begin to learn new thoughts. Begin to replace them, eradicate the ants, and replace them with positive thoughts. And do that enough so your brain now develops a new automatic reaction to an experience rather than the one that you had forever, maybe since you were young, as an automatic reaction to something. You're going to retrain your brain to think differently. And we're not going to get into this here, but we talked about this at the event this weekend. We talked about the mind of man and how to interrupt that process. We talked about thought ladders and how to change negative thoughts to our goal, positive thought, and how we move up that ladder. So those tools are great, and there are other tools as well that you should seek out. But today's message is primarily to get you to understand this amazing interaction between mind, brain, and body, and to get you to be sensitive to and aware of the ants that you allow to infest your brain as a result of your mind's activity that you haven't controlled. And what do I always tell you? What is the one thing you have control over? And that is your mind and how you direct it. That's it. That's your control, but it is the most important control, right? Because it is from the mind that the brain takes its cue, and it is from the brain that the body takes its cue. So if you want to get healthy physically, start with your mind. If you want to get healthy in your brain, because by the way, you can have an unhealthy brain, you can have a chemically altered brain, you can have a brain that isn't functioning the way it should in some ways. Start with your mind, right? Start with your mind. Focus on what's going on there. That is your only control anyway, and the most important control. So that is something to leave you with today. It's not that it's such a huge concept, but is so powerful and so simple in many ways, and something that once you are aware of and you operate from that position of awareness, you will begin to want to squish those ants in your brain, right? You will begin to want to control and decide the thoughts that you think on, the thoughts that you allow to hang around in your mind before they automatically affect everything else about your life. So you want to learn more about this, you can still go to Mindset Reset. You thought I was done talking about it, but the class is still there. You can still purchase it. You can still go there. If you actually go to masteryourmindsetacademy.com, you'll see that class there. You can purchase it. You can watch these videos. They're great. You can get the training to help you get rid of the ants, to help you be more conscious of what's going on in your mind. So your brain is healthy and your body is as well. Have a great week, guys. See you online.
Thank you for listening to Master Your Mindset Radio. Before you go, if you want to be part of a free online community of like-minded individuals for support, resources, and inspiration as you conquer your limiting beliefs and pursue your purpose, go to elizabethnader.com/community. That's elizabethnader.com/community, or search for Master Your Mindset Academy private group on Facebook. Looking forward to seeing you online.